Black Scully on check. Got a little Bull Rush t-shirt on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. On today's docket, we're talking about quite a few things today. Also, I do got a special night announcement to make. We're going to talk about this Brendan Sorsby situation. We've talked about Brendan Sorsby quite a lot on the show. So everybody that watches this show and watches other college football shows, you know what's going on. But things are getting kind of strange with this deadline coming for the supplemental draft. They just need to know what the charge is, how long the NCAA is going to suspend him, and you know if he's suspended for the duration of the season, then he'll enter the supplemental draft. I think this thing will kind of mirror what we seen with the Darian Mensah situation in the fall when he was trying to transfer. Duke was not having it, and then Darian Mensah, the lawyers are like, hey, he needs to know something, but before the portal closes and he's unable to transfer. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Speaking of which, the ACC has announced 15 Friday night light games for 2026, up 3 from a season ago. I think Miami and Stafford are the two teams that's kicking it off. How do you all feel about Friday night games? Now, granted, I love it when we get to that point of the season where, Con USA Fun Belt, action, we're getting games pretty much every day of the week, and I'm cool with it. But, in the Deep South, especially in the Deep South, Friday night lights are meant for high school. So what are your thoughts about that? Also on the day's docket, Stephen A. Smith had an opinion about Steve Sarkisian basket weaving comment. He said it was low and classless. We're going to speak on that. Because I love Stephen A. Smith. I love everything he's done. As far as the media aspect, am I the biggest fan of the good versus evil? You have to like this guy. You have to like. No, I'm not. I think sometimes you should be able to agree. But I respect what he's done, and he's grinded his way to where he's at now. But when it comes to college football, I think there's some things that are very different from the sports that he typically covers, which is the NBA and which is the NFL. So we're gonna get into that a little bit later. Ohio State. They installed new turf. Hey, man, protect your players at all costs. We'll talk about that. Also, we seen another Georgia player arrested. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the culture. Shout out to my dog, Jared Boomer Sooner, who asked this question to Stetson Bennett. I think it was at the NFL Combine a few years ago. He got upset about it. But, hey, it looked like we're having a legitimate issue. Shout out to Brad Crawford. He's a friend of the network from CBS Sports. He did a great piece on the 26 most feared players in college football. I love what a lot of Brad Crawford does, so of course I agree with most of the list. Just a few players I felt that were left out, to be completely transparent with you. Also, Sports Illustrated did a piece on every starting projected ACC quarterback heading into 2026. I thought this would be a great discussion because we just did ACC win totals a few weeks ago. So I think if we can put those two segments kind of together, we can kind of look at these quarterbacks and have like honest, opinions on them. And also for governor ruling, we now have a look of what the 2025 college football season will look like with the base model of what we think a 2014 college football playoff will look like. It gives us an idea of, alrighty, what teams are deserving, what teams aren't deserving, and can this thing really works? Governor College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great defensive
on
minds.
the
They have to be better on that side of the Alrighty, so let's get into some college football news. The special announcement I have to make, Governor's Film Room will be debuting this upcoming week. I've been struggling to see what day do I want to do it. I do have this gap on the weekend when I'm not doing shows, but I like to do uploads on the weekend. I've decided on Tuesdays will be the upload days for Governor's Film Room. I'm super excited for this show. If you saw what I did last year, and it wasn't that was kind of the development phase of the show. What Luke Altmaier was one of the players that I covered, and I'm excited for this. We're gonna be talking a lot of X's and O's. When it comes to college football, yes, I love giving my opinion on current events and what's going on. And, Governor's ruling, we have an outstanding time on giving our ruling of what we feel about the events of sports, the semantic of sports, but also I love like my game previews. My game previews did really well on this channel last year. So with Governor's Film Room, it's going to be the game previews, but more intact. Like we're going to be really talking X's and O's, and I really love talking X's and O's. So I'm excited for that. So it should be debuting this upcoming Tuesday, which I believe is 4 days from today. So mark your calendars, May 19th. I haven't decided on the time yet, but I may stick with this 6 p.m. time slot since we live during that time anyway. So the debut episode of Governor Film Room will be on Tuesday. I haven't decided who it is. I'll talk to Moon. I talked to our creative director, Mike, and we'll kind of figure out and get this episode thing figured out because it's going to be great. And it's just going to be just straight ball talk, bro. Straight X's and O's. And I'm super excited for it. So let's get into the news. I got you guys a preview on our cold open. Love the cold open. I did. I saw it. Nino got it from somebody. And then Nino started rocking with it for his show. I was like, you know what? Let me start doing a cold open. It's just a great way to say, hey, we're here. We're not going to just run the intro. We're here. So I talked about British Sorsby a little bit. His attorney requested an expedited NCAA eligibility decision. And honestly, it's required, right? We know what happened with the gambling situation, made numerous bets. The number keeps inflating, right? Since 2022, made numerous bets, and we know that once you sign that NLI, you are not allowed to bet in person or online. And I feel like that's something that the NCAA could honestly just handle. Like these players could be blacklisted, right? And then we have that theory, oh well, they can bet for their friends. Well, that's we'll decide that for another day. But these players should be blacklisted. So, in my honest opinion, I've given my honest opinion already. If this is a rule, and the NCAA and the government and whatever commission we end up getting is really about holding people accountable, then he should be suspended for the duration of the season. And it hurts my soul because I thought he's the number one quarterback or number one player in the portal for that. Love what he did at Cincinnati. I didn't expect Cincinnati to be as good as they were last year. I thought Scott Satterfield was on the hot seat, and they proved me 100% wrong. And you go to Lubbock where the resources are even more plentiful. They have a stout defense there. They have playmakers on the outside. I thought they could have really utilized his skill set, that dual threat, them off kilter plays that he makes so well, where Baron Morton kind of struggled in that area. Really needed some of those plays against Oregon in the college football playoff, for an example. So they just need a decision made so they know what's for it, right? If he is suspended for the duration of the season, then yes, he's going to enter the supplemental draft. I believe the deadline for that is like June 30th, and I believe the supplemental draft is July. Don't quote me on that, but if they say, hey, you only suspended 4 games, then I think he may come back and say, yeah, all right, we'll deal with the 4-game suspension and we'll play, or if it's 2 games or if it's 1 game. They just need the decision. And like I said in the cold open, this reminds me of the Darian Mensah situation where he's trying to transfer, he's trying to go to Miami. Miami is willing to open up the checkbook, just like Duke. How you get something, that's how you lose something. How they got him was offering him a bunch of money, pulling him away from the Big Easy at Tulane. Now, Miami's able to do the same thing. And there's just a lot of back and forth here where Duke is pissed off, like, hey, this is a contractual obligation, but how they got him is how they lost him. And ultimately, they were able to come to an agreement for the buyout, and ultimately he was able to leave. So all that the judge for Brendan Sorsby is asking to say, hey, whatever you decide to do, hopefully you see that he threw himself at the mercy of the court, that he went to go get help. This is an addiction, so this shouldn't fall under the standard suspension. This is exactly what they're trying to do. So their ideology is, hey, he threw himself at the mercy of the court. Hey, you don't give him a full game suspension, he'll be happy to play college football next season. If you do decide to give him a full season suspension, then he is going to enter the supplemental draft. These are his options, right? And there'll be teams interested in the supplemental draft who feel like that wasn't really their guy, or they was going to wait to 2027. Somebody will take a flyer on this kid and he'll have an opportunity. So that's just pretty much what that is right there. And yes, they need to have a decision, and it should be expedited, though it's not fair because I feel like with an expedited litigation, you don't get all of the facts and things aren't looked at as thoroughly as they should be. But I think with an expedited trial, the hope is, hey, we give him a smack on the wrist, just like we did with Tennessee in the Jeremy Pruitt situation, just like we did with the Hamburglar situation, or with Coach Jim Harbaugh. We're hoping that it's a slap on the wrist and he can play. But if not, yes, we're not going to wait out the suspension. The hell with your suspension. Just like Jake Retzlaff said to BYU last year when he broke the honor honor code. Yo, the hell with your suspension. I'm going to hit the transfer portal. I don't give a damn about your honor code. Well, maybe he does. I probably shouldn't say that, but, we all know what it is. So ACC revealed its Friday night football schedule. What side of the fence are you on? I got a question for everybody. What side of the fence you on with college football games on Friday night? I love them. Moon love them. I think the reason why we love weekday games so much is because Saturdays we're normally on the road, and sometimes even on like a weekday we're on the road. Like there's a lot of Liberty games I went to on Mondays or Wednesdays. Past few seasons I've been credentialed there. So like, what side of the fence you on with Friday night games? In the Deep South, I'm in Virginia. This is considered the South. I was born in Washington D.C. and I don't consider myself a Southerner, but I think the high school games were played on Saturdays, right? So what is your ideology on this? We know the SEC doesn't have any Friday night games. Big Bank take Little Bank. We know Cody Campbell at Texas Tech, who we was just talking about with the Brindley Sorsby situation. Like, hey, we shouldn't be playing games on Friday night. In Texas, high school football is king in Texas on the Friday night, right? So that's the discussion that everybody has. So what side of the fence are you on? You can talk about that in the chat now, on the comment section. But yeah, formally, mentioned that they got 15 games. That's up from 12 a season ago. 14 of the 17 ACC teams have at least one Friday night game. Only Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Syracuse have none. Week 1 Friday is Miami at Stanford on 9 p.m. Week 2 is 4 games. Rutgers at Boston College, Villanova at Louisville, Richmond at NC State, Norfolk State at Virginia. And those all fall on September 11th. So we're seeing an uptick in this Friday night games. I think this is beautiful. Like, if you travel for college football and you don't get an opportunity to watch a lot of games on television, you appreciate these night games. You really do. You appreciate these weekday games because sometimes you just want to watch a game on TV, right? Nothing beats it being able to watch it at field level. I think television probably beats the press box experience for me. But when you're on that field, nothing beats that. So I enjoy it, but I also don't live in the Deep South where, like, you go to somewhere like Texas or Oklahoma. What? We're not watching college football on a Friday night. It's high school football. We got real games to go to, right? So that's how they feel. So I love it. I think this is great exposure, especially for some of these weeks where Friday night games and it's not really a lot of competition. You may get one really decent game out of the ACC. I think this is great exposure for the conference, especially if you love all the college football. I don't just watch SEC. I don't just watch the Big Ten. I love ACC football. It's been the conference that has been really other than the American conference, right? Other than them, like, they've been the biggest blessing to us. Like, I think there's only one university we haven't been to a game to there, But we've seen every team, since our relationship with the ACC. And shout out to Commissioner Phillips and shout out to the partner schools of the conference who do such a great job in making sure we're able to go see those games. But, the American Conference, though, is the creme de la creme. It is top shelf for me. It was my favorite conference to watch a season ago. It's the conference we had the best relationship with. We was able to go out on our fall camp tour last year, the Boca Raton, beautiful Boca Raton, close to Miami for FAU. We was able to, actually go live from their stadium. That's like life-changing things right there for me. So that's our best relationship. So I love weekday games. I truly do love them. Do I view the Friday night high school thing the way that everybody else does? Probably not. But also, I've never been to Odessa, Texas to see a high school game there, right? So I think if I was there, it would be different. But just knowing my guy Boomer, who's from Oklahoma, lived in Norman, went to school there, he could tell you that Friday night football there is king. So I just wanted to see what side of the fence everybody on. So let's talk about the Stephen A. Smith situation. Kind of blast Steve Sarkisian for the basket weaving comment. And on First Take on Thursday, he went directly after Sarkisian for the old men's basket weaving comment. Stephen A. Smith said, Steve Sarkisian, that was low. There's no reason for that whatsoever. It was really below the belt and classist thing for him to say. You're diminishing the quality of education that may offer at the institution. You've got an abundance of people out there that make lives of themselves and prosper getting a college degree from there. You can't go at a university like that, right? Stephen A. Smith continued to say, under no circumstances is that comment supposed to come out of the mouth of an imposing SEC coach, any coach for that matter. You're a leader of young men. You need to. All right, Stephen A. Smith. So if this was the NFL, this was the NBA, I would agree with you. But this is college football, brother. Some of these battles we have, right? We got the Civil War. That's Oregon State versus Oregon. We got, what is it called? Old-fashioned clean hate. Georgia versus Georgia Tech. Like, we have the, you know what I'm saying, the Iron Bowl. We have bowls where these two teams hate each other, and it's okay in this space for these teams to hate each other. I took nothing wrong what he said about the basket weaving courses. Do you think that Ole Miss gave a damn when they illegally went and tampered with Luke Farrelly when he was at Clemson and brought him to Oxford? Do you think they gave a damn, Stephen A. Smith? No, they didn't give a damn. So this is college football. This is a safe space. It is okay to hate each other. The border war. Kansas and Missouri, it is okay to hate each other. It's okay to dislike each other in college football. You don't have to be politically correct 100% in college football. These things are accepted. We hate you. That's the way it works in college football. It's not like the NBA. It's not like the NFL. You know, things like, you know, where you unionize and things have to be politically correct. That's not like that in this sport. This is a dog-eat-dog sport. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. If you're not trying to get these recruits in any way as possible, if you're not trying to build your roster, you know, out of high school and through the transfers, then you're going to get fired. You're going to lose your job. The boosters and the donors are going to find a way to pay for that buyout and get you the hell out of there, Stephen A. Smith. That's the way it works in college athletics. I understand what you're saying is below the belt. You're talking bad about a university and all that. Bruh, we are talking about Texas. And we are talking about Ole Miss. They're both in part of the Southeastern Conference. And in that conference, football is king. They don't give a damn about what they going on there. I think Steve Sarkisian was just making a point. Hey, we kind of play this thing fair. You don't get to take basket weaving courses here. And guess what? On your transcript, we only going to allow 50% of those courses. Bro, ain't nothing wrong with good old-fashioned clean hate. Ain't nothing wrong with that. This is college football, bro. You supposed to hate these schools, bro. That's the way it works in college football. Nothing has to be politically correct, brother. I see what you're saying as far as, it's a fine institution. It's a cool. Like, the students don't even care about that. They probably laughing about it. They probably wonder, like, why your panties up in a bunch, right? Because at the end of the day, this is college football. This is college football in the Southeastern Conference. Teams are going to take shots at other teams. It's just the way it is. And we accept it, and we okay with it, and we love it. It's gossip. This is the off season for most people, but you know, for us who do content throughout the duration of the year, and in the off season, yes, talk trash. Well, this is what we want. Let's mark out calendars when these teams play. Right? There's a reason why your company, ESPN, and College Game Day is going to LSU and Ole Miss games. You know, the third week of the season. Yes, it's good hate. This is what we want, right? It's absolutely what we want. So, Stephen A. Smith, I respect you, but I don't agree with your comment. Ain't nothing wrong with that. This is college football in the Southeastern Conference and the SEC. You're supposed to hate each other. It ain't brotherly love. It ain't like the NBA. These players can be cool, fake argue on the court, and they chilling with each other in the offseason. This is college football, bro. Don't nobody like each other. You ain't know that? Let's move on to our next into the news story. So, Ohio State installed new turf and unveiling new uniforms for 2026. Good for them. You know, this is a program that has had a lot of success. You look at the national championship victory that they had, you know, from their 2024 season, made a college football playoff appearance, and honestly looked like, for probably about 10 weeks of the season, looked like the best team in the sport, and they was just breezing through, and I think that's what made it difficult when they got into the deep water versus Indiana, or got into that deep water versus Miami. It was uncharted waters because they hadn't really been there, because everything was they were kind of coasting. So, new turf, what does new turf mean? Yes, this is NFL grade synthetic turf. I think we see now, I don't know if it's because the exposure is there now with the growth of social media and insiders and reporters, and me, like I said, I get notifications from Twitter all day because of the people that I follow. I got to know these on. I need to know everything that's going on, and it seems like now we're getting more injuries than ever when you think about the ACL, the MCL, the meniscus, right? It's important. These type of things are important. So yes, the new uniforms are cool, but the player safety and the player health is what's even more important. And now that they have NFL grade, which I'm a little scared of, because you see NFL, you see those type of knee injuries all the time in NFL. But hopefully, player safety is at the forefront, and the players have better traction and they're not tearing their knees up. So. And then Ryan Day was quoted saying a welcome upgrade to the stadium, maintaining the safety and performance of our players on game days. That is truly what matters here in this story. When you think about it, player safety is always going to be at the forefront when we're talking about these here student athletes. Story number 5 is a story that's a little bit uncomfortable for me. A safety, Jamali Riddle, was arrested on felony drug charges, right? Georgia safety Jamali Riddle, East Carolina transfer, arrested last Friday in Glenn County with 2 felony drug charges and misdemeanor speeding charge. Charges possession of marijuana over an ounce and a possession of a scheduled controlled substance plus speeding. Posted bond on all 3 charges. Incident undercover detective observed a red Dodge Durango traveling at a high speed, weaving through traffic, Interstate 95. We seem to see this a lot at Georgia with, traffic violations, drug violations. Like the Zachariah Branch incident doesn't count, in my opinion. Like, it truly just doesn't count because, in my opinion, like, it was just, like one of those things where I'm in a position of power and you're just going to have to deal with it. But, when you start to really look at this thing, it's weird because Georgia has a really weird dynamic, because when you look at the culture that is built inside of the locker room, the skull sessions, everything that they do for player accountability, like, you don't have amazing culture on the gridiron, right? It's no way you can have it and you win back-to-back national championships, right? And this isn't a 14 college football playoff era. You have to have an amazing culture inside of the locker rooms and and on the gridiron. You just have amazing culture, right? What they're able to do on the football field time and time again. We know when we look at these 12-team playoffs, yeah, you can go ahead and put Georgia in there. It's just the way it is with Kirby Smart coach team. Now, what happens in the offseason, I can't explain it, but it seems like every year, and this is happening across a lot of campuses, but specifically in Athens, it just seems to be a lot of players getting in trouble. So, is it a culture problem? That's the question I have for everybody. I'm not certain if it is a culture problem, right? I think it's a culture problem from the standpoint of, hey, these players can't stay out of trouble in the offseason, but the performance that you get on the field, the expectation you get, right? And it's players and staff. Like Mike Bobo, I think, from a schematic perspective, is probably one of the worst play callers in the country. Let him get down. And then he probably almost instantly becomes one of the best play callers in the country. Like I always use the Tennessee game when they were scoring a bunch of points in bunches. Guess what Georgia had to do? Score a bunch of points in bunches. It's the same thing when Ole Miss traveled to Athens and Ole Miss was red hot for about 3.5 quarters. And yeah, so it's just one of those things where you come there to play football. I think school's an afterthought. And when you're there to play football and you're not doing so much football stuff in the offseason, I think there's a little bit of wiggle room to get in trouble. So do they have a culture problem? I think I'll leave that up to you all to answer. I say no because they have outstanding culture in the locker room and outstanding culture on the gridiron. But the culture outside of those walls and outside of that stadium, yeah, they probably do have a culture problem. So let me know how you guys feel about that. Let's go ahead and move right along. All right, so I've seen a lot of dope things lately. When putting these shows together, when I tell you I have a good time and figuring out everything that's going on. So I always stay in tap just with the people that I follow, the notifications that I have on X. I always call it Twitter, but on X. But then, I have a tab of a bunch of college football websites I go to and go through. I just kind of browse them, see what news is happening, anything that the people that I follow missed, or, any type of cool things. Like, sometimes people may be, reacting to something, or they'll put out a list. I say, hey, let's react to it on the show. So this right here is from Brad Crawford. Like I said, he's a friend of the network. We follow each other on X. Works with CBS Sports. Kind of used to be 24/7 Sports, but I think they're just rocking with CBS Sports for now. But he listed the top 26 most feared players in college football. And his criteria was disruption, versatility, and rare ability to tilt game plans before the snap. And I like that. So, and a lot of the players, like I said, what he has on here, I agree with a lot. Number 26, he got Bryce Fitzgerald, safety at Miami. We saw 6 interceptions as a true freshman a season ago. And I think that was tied for second most nationally. 2 game-changing plays in the first round, playoff win versus Texas A&M. And this is what Crawford had to say, the clear quarterback of the defense and the back end for coordinator Corey Heatherman. as a freshman, 6 picks is amazing, especially when you look at the story history of Miami and what they was able to do this past year. They were honestly a few plays away from winning a national championship and shocking the world. Like, for the people like myself who wasn't taking this team seriously, taking Mario Cristobal seriously, just from blunders and just having kind of the rosters in the past, but things not quite panning out. We look at how hot that 2024 team was with Cam Ward as starting quarterback, and they started hot, but then there were some games that kind of could have lost. The Cal game was one of them where they was just down big, and they came back against Cal to Virginia Tech. Refs kind of helped with that one. It's just like, all right, when we going to see another blunder? But I like Bryce Fitzgerald on this. Definitely is a game changer. Definitely is one of the most feared players on the defensive side of the ball in college football. Coming at number 25, we got Sammy Brown. I have Sammy Brown high on a lot of my list. And Sammy Brown on this list will be much higher than what he is at 25. I think he's a game changer. He's been a game changer as a true freshman, dominated again as a sophomore. This year, I think, he's a guy that did 3 years and done. He will not be playing another, a fourth year in Clemson. He'll be entering the NFL draft. 106 total tackles last year, second at ACC behind NC State's Caden Forum. I think the beautiful thing about Sammy Brown is that, like, you can see it, like, in the spring. And, when he's just stepping on campus and just learning the playbook. And now when I look at this team, and yes, I love the wide receivers more in Westco, but what are we going to get from Christopher Vizzania? That's the question that I have. And then Chad Morris is now the offensive coordinator down there again. I think this team will be a defensive-driven team. And I think that starts and ends with linebacker Sammy Brown. So, like I said, it's a reason why I believe in Clemson's defense. I think he will absolutely be in the NFL draft last year. What round? I'm not sure. I think he'll be a high pick. I mean, what's not to like about him? All right, coming up at number 24, we got Clev Lubin. Louisville, 8.5 sacks a season ago, 3 forced fumbles last season. I always say this about Louisville. Jeff Brom is one of my favorite coaches in all of college football. You got player coaches, you got guys that tell great stories and are great motivators, and then you got disciplinarians, right? When I look at disciplinarians in our sport, I am looking at Kirk Cignetti, and I'm looking at Coach Jeff Brom at Louisville. I think they both do an outstanding job with player accountability. Explain yourself, not in the film room. Of course, it's happening in the film room, not just there, but explain yourself now. Like, no, don't you dare walk to that bench and talk to your quarterback coach. Don't you dare walk to the bench and call your offense coordinator if he's not on the field and he's up there in the press box. Come talk to me right now. What did you see? What were you thinking? Those are the type of coaches that I've taken a liking to in the sport. At number 23, we got Ty Benefield, LSU. 187 tackles over his last 2 seasons at Boise State. Diagnosis plays before they happen. That's really the read on him. And Kiffin has praised Benefield for having an ultra elite skill set. So, yes, he's absolutely deserving to be on this list. No problems there. Kelly Jones, Mississippi State. What is he, like 6'4" or something like that? Now, only 2 SEC players defended more passes than Jones last season. Had 13 pass breakups. And one of those was a first-round pick this past NFL draft. So you got to like the size, the versatility. What does that twitch look like at the next level? That would be my biggest question. And Mississippi State is going to need him. I bet you they're believing in Starkville they can have a really good season. And, on that defensive side of the ball, this is who you're looking at. Tidum Tuiachi, linebacker, Oregon, had 9.5 sacks as a junior, his career best. Kind of an old school guy, per Crawford. I like it. There's a lot of people, when you look at this Oregon's defense, and even though from a staff perspective they lost a lot, there's a lot to like on this list. Tyreek Tucker, defensive lineman, Indiana. He's 6 feet, 300 pounds, 6 sacks in his first season as an every down threat. Came from JMU. Look at the players that were at JMU, right? They came over with Kirk Cignetti, and look at the success that they have. We're talking about a Tyreek Tucker. We're talking about an Elijah Surratt. Those are players who believed in their coach, and their coach believed in them. Yeah, I know you guys did this at the G5, well, G6 level now, but I know you guys can do this at a high FBS rank. And that's the belief I have in Auburn and what Alex Golish is doing this year as well. Coming in at number 19, we got Ahmad Moten. Defensive lineman from Miami, 6'3", 325 pounds. They say he's got brute strength, and then he's got a lot of shoes to fill. Think about it. They lost Ruben Bain. They lost Akeem Messidor. So when you're looking at somebody on that defense and say, hey, who are we afraid of? Who, as an offensive coordinator, do we need to scheme for? 100% is Ahmad Moten. Number 18, we got Bryce Pollock, cornerback, Texas Tech. Had 5 interceptions in 2025, 3 in the first 3 games before offenses started avoiding them. True lockdown presence. What does that look like for Texas Tech this year? Especially with the Brendan Sorsby situation. You think of hell, if Will Hammond is ready, I think they can still win games with Will Hammond with the pieces that they got on the outside, the pieces that they got in the backfield, and this defense. This defense is going to be stout. When I was just looking at this defense last year, I think it was impeccable. They run like a 3-3-5, but it kind of mirrors a 4-2-5. And like the way that they run their run fits and that lane accountability, when you see it, they all move as one. It's not one player trying to shine. They all move as one. And that's what I like a lot about Texas Tech defense a season ago. Anthony Smith, a defensive lineman from Minnesota, had 12.5 sacks last season. One of the stronger defensive edges is what Brad Crawford said. So I like this pick. This guy should definitely be on there. I do know the assistant defensive line coach for Minnesota, my boy Thrill. I've heard him talk about him before, so that's pretty exciting. Ben Roberts, linebacker, Texas Tech. He's 279 tackles. He's entering career tackles, entering his final season. One of 6 returning starters on the defense that ranked first nationally in total defense. I was just telling you how great their defense was, how their defense kind of plays as one, and I think that is phenomenal when you look at a team that plays as one. Nobody's trying to play hero ball. That lane accountability is really outstanding. Corey Perch, safety from Oregon. We've seen the last, Big Ten transfer that Dylan Dieneman got drafted really high in this, 2026 NFL draft. Corey Perch is going there to do the same exact thing, and I think he brings a lot of the same skill set that Dylan Dieneman brought to Oregon as well. Absolutely deserves to be on this list. John Henry Daly, edge from Michigan, had 11.5 sacks this upcoming season. Michigan is one of the biggest question marks. When I think about question marks and I think about teams across the country, I look at Ann Arbor. I understand the reasons that they brought Cal Whittingham there. Hey, our culture is probably the wrong word. Our discipline has been bad these last few years. And it's not even like on the field. It's really like off the field. It's just a lot of madness going on. Cal Whittingham, I think, is a guy that can kind of get things going in the right direction. So, yeah, Michigan, I have a lot of question marks, right? And I think a lot of it, I know their defense is going to be there. I know they're going to be able to run the football. Bryson Underwood, what does that development look like for him? I think that's my biggest question. KJ Bolden for Georgia, absolutely should be on this list. I'm surprised he's not even higher, right? We look at, what he can do. Yeah, absolutely could be higher. Xavier Brown, cornerback, Alabama, returned both of his interceptions for touchdowns last season. And Brad Crawford said he's practically a wide receiver playing cornerback, elite level ball skills. So, hey, I have no argument with that. Brandon Finney Jr., cornerback, Oregon. Now, we're starting to see a theme here. It's starting to get real SEC, Big Ten heavy. Well, hey, year in, year out, these are the conferences that put, majority of the players in the league. So, true freshman last season, 3 interceptions, including 2 in the playoff shutout. Went over Texas Tech. We got Ellis Robinson, the 4th, Georgia. Like I said, it's getting repetitive, right? Christian Gray, Notre Dame. We know Notre Dame is going to field a great defense. What does it look like? And who's actually running that defense? Is it Chris Ash defense, right? Or is Marcus Freeman, it's allowing him to run it, but it's through Marcus Freeman vision? Those are the kind of things that I wonder. David Stone, shout out to my guy, Jared Boomer Gray Sooner. I'm sure he's happy about this. Defensive lineman, Oklahoma. Had 43 tackles as a first-year starter. Really good in the run game. And, when you look at Oklahoma, one of the things that's always left out is how good their strength and conditioning is. Probably have the best strength and conditioning in the country. So, each and every year you want to see their players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, get good with arguably the best defensive play caller in the country. And Brent Venables, just outstanding. Next, at number 6, Damon Wilson, the 2nd, edge Miami. Missouri transfer, had 9 sacks last year. I mentioned it earlier. Akeem Mesidor's in the NFL. Ruben Bain is in the NFL. Of course, you got to replace that production, right? It's got to come from somewhere. Amari Washington, defensive lineman, Oregon. There's about 3 or 4 people we could have had from Oregon on this list alone, right? I don't think we've mentioned Matayo I don't think we've mentioned him yet. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Bear Alexander come back for one more year. Princewell Uman-Nealon, LSU, was in Oxford, I believe, a season ago. Did something similar to what his brother did. When brother was at Florida, transferred to Ole Miss. Fit really great in Pete Golden's defense. We just got to see how LSU is going to use them. Leonard Moore, of course. Like, we're getting to the point where, yeah, these guys should be up here 100%. You already know who they are. Dylan Stewart from South Carolina, a lot of injuries last year. If he can stay healthy, I think the sky's the limit, and he can arguably become one of the most feared players in our sport. And then Colin Simmons, of course, who I have on this image, is first. I like it overall. I can't be mad about it. Matayo is just one of those guys I feel like should be on this list. And then a guy that's kind of been forgotten just because of limited snaps and injuries issues, but Rod Moore. If Rod Moore can return to, I think that was his sophomore season type play, then yes, he could be one of the most feared guys in the country. Outstanding job, Brad Crawford, per usual. Love this. Let's go ahead and move right along to our next segment. All right. So we're going to go around the nation. This is ACC projected starting quarterbacks for 2026. And I think with most conferences, you have an idea of who's going to be the starting quarterback. I think you do. We still got about a handful, maybe 7 or 8 teams that haven't figured out who's going to be their starter. But, this is a huge but, we kind of have an idea who's going to be the starter, right? So, we know that the ACC had their spring meetings. We know they support the 24 college football playoff, and of course they're doing. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. I feel like this has been a huge 2014 college football playoff week. I think it's important for people to know that it's a no. It's going to always be a no. So Sports Illustrated, they talked about the starting quarterbacks heading into this season. So Boston College, Mason McKenzie. I talked about Boston College a lot when we did our ACC win totals. I believe it's 3.5 win total. Unfortunately, I took the under. I'm just not sure how well Bill O'Brien. I'm trying to be careful because we have a great relationship with Boston College. So I'm trying to be careful how I word this. How well his style of football translates to this modern era, right? Because, this modern era of college football is built on being able to score points in bunches and contain defensively, right? And I'm not sure that's what we're going to see with him. But Mason McKenzie is their projected starting quarterback. A transfer from Saginaw Valley State. Had like a 6% completion percentage, 17 touchdowns. We'll see how well he fare. But do I have high hopes for Boston College heading into the season? No. Cal has one of the best quarterbacks in the country, not even just the ACC, and Jaron Kiwi Patele. JKS is what I call them. 64 completion percentage, 3,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I was surprised he stayed. I was really surprised that JKS decided to stay at Cal. Like, yes, Tosh Lupoy is coming their head coach. You just think with the way he played last year, there'd be a lot of offers. So to me, he showed a lot of loyalty by staying. But I look at these numbers as a true freshman and 5th nationally in completions per game, and all of this can go up. That's the craziest part about JKS, right? I think he can have an outstanding season. And I think when you start to look at that 2028 NFL draft, if he's not at the top of your list, I'm not sure who you have ahead of him. And you need to explain yourself. You really do need to explain yourself. High hopes for California heading into this year. We know that Tosh Lupoy is there. Their 6.5 win total is a little scary for me. I just got to see how well it translates into victories. But when there's quarterbacks I'm really excited about, quarterbacks that are, when Cal makes those East Coast trips and there's a team I really want to go see, I want to go see Cal. And I believe, I'm not sure, I got to see Cal this year. Clemson, Christopher Vezina, kind of, he played well in the mock-up duty he played last year. I think there was one game he had to play for Cade Klubnik. I believe it was against SMU. Their defense played poorly. He played pretty well, so I think he can get the job done. But when you looked at Clemson rosters in the past, it was like, yeah, they're going to be there. They're going to win the ACC, right? This is what we were saying just a year ago. Yeah, Clemson is absolutely going to win the ACC. Look at their roster construction. Look at their return in production. Yes, there's no way they don't win the ACC, and then they just completely fall flat. Even the stunt that they pulled, right? Even the stunt that they pulled when it came to ACC Media Days, and they just stood behind everybody, right? They didn't even come to Radio Row. We was there on Radio Row Like, and when we go to Radio Row for any conference that we go to for Radio Row, what we do is we interview the person responsible for the communications for the conference, and then we email everybody, all the teams, letting them know the coaches we want to interview and the players we want to interview, right? Heard responses from everybody pretty much except for Clemson. And Clemson pulled like this Michael Jackson stunt. It was so cold. They walked up and like we happened to be like here where Radio Row was, and they just kind of popped behind. We was like, yo, what's going on? And it was like a mob that ran into him. The only person that had a bigger mob there last year was Bill Belichick when he was in the breakout room. So yes, Chad Morris, offensive coordinator there. I think the win total is 7.5. When we did our win total segment, I said, kind of staying away from that. But can he produce? Yes. Will he produce? That's a question. They got Walker Eggett, San Jose State transfer from a year ago. Things were kind of dicey with Duke. I think if Duke knew Darian Mensah wanted to leave sooner, I think they'd have got a bigger name in the portal. But because it happened so late, like they just kind of had to accept what they could accept. But when I tell you, I believe in what Manny Diaz is building. I do believe in what they're building. Yes, they lost Cooper Barcade. Yes, they lost Darian Mensah. But, we're talking about a great year in 2024. Not the best year this past year, by 2024 standards. But maybe it was because they won the conference championship. And you can't take that away from them. And that energy when they walk into media days this year will be different. We were the ACC champions last year, right? So I'm not sure what to think of Duke this year, but I trust Manny Diaz, and I think Walker Eggett will be a good fit. Like we've seen quarterbacks go there and have good seasons there. We've seen Riley Leonard have a really good season there. We saw Darian Mensah. He had a really good season there. I think it's a quarterback-friendly offense, and I cannot think of the kid's name to save my life who transferred for there and went to Corvallis to Oregon State, and for the life of me, couldn't figure out why he went there. But yeah, so I don't know, but I'm hoping that they'll continue their winning ways. Florida State is the biggest head scratcher for me, but I'm starting to see a lot of publications have high faith in this program. Like USA Today had them number 22nd in their top 25. And what have they shown you from a roster construction standpoint, from a recency standpoint, with the ability to win? They lost a lot of games last year they could have won or they should have won. So what tells you that this is going to be a dynamic team this year? Now listen, I am a college football purist. Is the sport better when Florida State is better? Yes. Is it better when they're going crazy in the doke? Yes, it absolutely is. But Ashton Daniels is the saving grace? No, I don't know about that. I want him to be. I really do. Auburn transferred 57% completion percentage, just shy under 800 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So I hope this works. I just have my doubts. And like even the Bucks think they're gonna be pretty decent this year at a 6.5 win total. So that means they're gonna win 7 games. I'm not there, but I do hope things work out for Ashton Daniels. I do hope things work out for Mike Norvell. I really do think he's an outstanding coach who just had a string of bad luck. Their resources aren't as plentiful as they should be because I feel like the last few portal gets they got at the quarterback just really didn't make sense. Love Thomas Castellanos as a player, but this is Florida State. There were other guys they could have got last year. Love DJU. His pops is cool with our dog Nino, but to me, I'm just not getting it from that perspective. Like this is the guy that you guys want. We'll see, right? We'll see. But like I said, DJU disappointed. Tommy Castellanos disappointed. Right, it looked good to start the season off. They won against Alabama, but then slowly but surely things started to dissipate. Lost their offensive coordinator, Gus Malzahn, retired. He's now part of the College Football Playoff Committee. So I don't know. I don't know about Florida State. I hope things worked out for Ashton Daniels, and I hope things work out for Mike Norvell. College football is better when Florida State is better. But how many wins is it going to take for him to keep his job? 2023 seems like a long time away. We've had 2 back-to-back abysmal seasons, not to Florida State standards, not to the standard that Bobby Bowden built as the head coach in Tallahassee when they had 13 straight. What was it? Was it 87 to 01? Something crazy like that. It's like AP top 10 or top 5. I forgot the stat, but yes. That fan base of Tallahassee deserves way more. And that was really on my mind when we drove down to Orlando And I saw Florida State North Campus. I seen Florida State South Campus, and it was heavy on my mind. I'm like, yo, these fans, bro, they deserve a lot more. So from Mike Norvell State, because he is on the hot seat, I hope they do well this year. Ashton Daniels, he does know the ACC. He's familiar with the ACC. I hope that he does well as well. Georgia Tech, Alberto Mendoza. Now, when I look at Georgia Tech, I look at the head coach, Brent Key. He has an identity. He's somebody that I trust. You know when you play them that they're going to be really physical, and their ideology is we're going to smack you in the mouth. We can run the ball. You can know we going to run the ball, but what are you going to do about it to stop it, right? That's their identity, right? And Fernando, I think, fits this system, right? Indiana transfer, threw a mop-up dude for 286 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, and limited action. I think he is a lot more athletic than his older brother. He's replacing Haynes King, and Haynes King was all world for Georgia Tech these past few years there, right? There was times they needed him to be their bell cow, right? And what will Alberto Mendoza look like in this George Gideon system, right? It's a run-heavy system, but I think it will set up the pass game beautifully. I think it will set him up beautifully. I'm interested to see what they look like. Colorado, they went to Boulder last year. Now Boulder comes to Bobby Dodd. It's a Thursday night game. Message, hey Moon, I want to be there. I want to be in Atlanta for the game when Colorado comes to town. And I think they got Tennessee week 2. So, I mean, their schedule is there, but I know Brent Key ain't running from nothing. He ain't running from nothing. And I hope things really work out for the Georgia Tech team this year. Alberto Mendoza, I think he's going to play better than expected. I truly do believe that. Lincoln Conhost, this is a guy that I liked a lot last year. And it started in the spring with Ohio State. It's him versus Julian Sand. And a lot of people saying, yo, there's no way Lincoln Conhost has a chance. That's what a lot of people, on our platform, CFB Nation, was saying, and they were right. But I was just looking at that spring game that he had. I was like, yo, he was dynamic. He was really dynamic. And can he accept the accountability that the past Louisville quarterbacks have been able to accept? The Jack Plumbers, the Miller Mosses, right? Can he accept that accountability? Because there's a coach by the name of Jeff Brown that's going to be in your face. Like, you make a mistake, nah, it ain't no go chill on the sideline, get up. What did you see? You almost make a mistake. What were you thinking? Like, what did you see? And there will be expletives with that. Can you handle that accountability? Because he's going to be very honest with you. He's going to be brutally honest with you. But you can expect that team is going to play outstanding football, and Louisville can definitely win a conference. I say it every year. They can definitely win a conference. Miami, when you look at Darian Mensah, this is a guy that is going to absolutely light it up this year. You think about the running game, think about Cooper Barcade, you think about Malachi Tony. You just think about the players that they have on this team. He absolutely balled out last year, just shy of 4,000 yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And I think this is a very quarterback-friendly system, and Shannon Dawson's system. He's going to light it up. He's going to absolutely light it up. And Miami should be there in the thick of things. Miami should be predicted by everyone to win the ACC. And if they don't, we got some discussions to have. Right? We absolutely have some discussions to have. Billy Edwards Jr. is looking to be the starter for North Carolina. I like Billy Edwards Jr. Had the opportunity to be around Billy Edwards Jr. quite a lot during this time when he was in College Park at Maryland. Most memorable moments for him is when I went to the 2023 spring game, it was, I believe, for Maryland. I think that was Taulia's last year as the starting quarterback. And Billy Edwards kind of had this infectious energy and came on with the second team. I could tell his teammates really respect him. So I thought the future was bright for him. My most memorable moment of him, because I am a season credential holder, I'm always on the field at Maryland, was the USC comeback win that they had. And we happened to be in the end zone, and my dog Moon was in the end zone. And let's just say things got a little unchy. But I'm excited for him in Chapel Hill. What does that look like with Bill Belichick? What type of intel did Bill Belichick gain from the first year? I think there's a lot of things outside of the gridiron that were kind of annoyances for Coach Belichick. But, you don't win the amount of rings he won and not do the work and not do the preparation. I think last year was an adjustment period. And I hope that they can put some games together. And for Billy Edwards' sake, I hope. I think this is his 4th stop. I believe his first year was at either Wake Forest or Georgia Tech. Might have been Wake Forest. Second stop at Maryland. Then he was at Wisconsin for a poor year. North Carolina's back in ACC territory, so I hope it works well for him. And then we got a guy by the name of CJ Bailey. Shout out to CFB Moon. He posted this a couple days ago on the teams that NC State does not play. The fact that he got 7 home games. When you're looking at a quarterback that can rise in the 2027 NFL draft, a kid that is 6'6", that is electric, smooth as butter, man, CJ Bailey is it. 68% completion percentage, 3,100 yards, 25 TDs, 9 interceptions. And this guy is the real deal. And NC State's under is 6.5. NC State is probably going to win 10 or 11 games. NC State may very well end up in the ACC championship. And guess what? NC State can absolutely end up in the college football playoff. Don't be surprised by any of that I just said. I know a couple of you probably got your mouths to the ground. Go ahead, close it. Because, this kid CJ Bailey is real deal. When Georgia Tech was red hot, and they went to Raleigh. They left with a huge L because C.J. Bailey built to you know what on Georgia Tech last year. And this kid is dynamite. This kid is legit. This is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. This is one of those guys. I always had my guys that second Saturday in December, like, who's going to be sitting there? Darian Mensah can be sitting there. C.J. Bailey can be sitting there. You guys know Connor Wegman. I think Connor Wegman's going to light it up in H-Town this year. I can't wait to go there for a few games this year. Pittsburgh, Mason Heinzel. How do you guys feel about him? 63 completion percentage a season ago, 16 touchdowns, 8 interception. Pat Narduzzi is one of my favorite coaches in the conference. We follow each other on X. I guess I was on Radio Row at all the media days I went to last year. We'll be on Radio Row for all of the ones that I go to this year as well. But the one thing I miss about, I love the Radio Row one because you have the ability to be live. We go live. You guys see everything as we see it. Like, sometimes we don't even know who's next for the interviews. Sometimes, somebody go out of order or people just pop up. Me and Moon love the live element because we adjust so quickly. We adapt so quickly. But before we was on Radio Row at these media days, we would go to the auditorium, then we would go to the breakout rooms. In the main auditorium is where you ask the coaches the questions, like you state your name, you state your affiliation. And I used to love asking coaches the question. Coaches would come up afterwards and dap me up, or their team, their communications guy, be like, thank you for asking the questions. You made our players comfortable. Virginia Tech would say that all the time. Shout out to Virginia Tech. Shout out to my connects there at Virginia Tech. But Pat Narduzzi, I really like Pat Narduzzi. I really think that this Pittsburgh team takes on that identity of the Steel City and what it means, the steel mills and all of that stuff. Last year, they had a game last year that really broke my heart. Pat Narduzzi broke my heart last year when Notre Dame was coming to town. It's like, well, we don't care if we win it. We can lose, by, he said, a large margin, but it wouldn't matter. As long as we win this next game, we had a shot for the ACC title. And that just don't match the spirit of the Steel City. It didn't, and it really broke my heart. So I don't know what to expect from them this upcoming year. I think Pat Narduzzi is an outstanding coach. So can they be a legit contender in this conference this year? That remains to be seen. That's when Kevin Jennings, when you look at them, you look at him, you look at Rat Lashley, led the ACC in interceptions last year. That's a terrible stat. For a guy that's just truly dynamic, this is an RPO-driven offense. So I think that's what gave him the edge over Preston Stone. Shout out to Preston Stone. Great year this past year at Northwestern. What does that look like this year? Like, did the ACC catch up with it? Because remember, they came in the first year and, like, ACC teams couldn't do nothing with SMU, right? To Clemson finally beat them in a conference championship on a cold December night. We were there. We was at the field. But what does that look like for them this year? Like, when you look at a guy and say, hey, like, Kevin Jennings, like, can he evolve as a passer, right? Can we get these interceptions down, right? His rushing yards took a hit last year. It was like they weren't running him. Kevin Jennings is a dynamic quarterback. And I didn't like the way he looked the season ago, and a lot of that wasn't on them. They lost a lot of talent year in and year out. I want Rhett Lashley, I want them to get back to the basics. Let Kevin Jennings go off this year. Allow him to be a ball carrier because he's dynamic with those off, kilter plays, just being able to make those off-script plays. But goddamn it, call a few runs for him here and there, right? Because he's dynamic running the ball. So if there's a team that's like, all right, SMU, like, can y'all do what y'all did in 2024? They can, because Kevin Jennings is still there. He may be the only 3-year starter at this program near. I think CJ Bailey may be the only other anomaly, but everybody else, like, it's their second year or it's their first year at their new school. So I want SMU to be good this year. I really do. Stanford, they got Davis Warren, Michigan transfer, medical red shirt after tearing his ACL. 2024, what does that look like for them? Stanford has struggled, man. They really have struggled. Hopefully Davis Warren could get this thing going in the right direction. Syracuse, Steve Angeli. People don't know how good Steve Angeli was at the start of last season. Yeah, they lost the Tennessee game. Tennessee was just red hot. They was just red hot, right? But that Clemson game before he got hurt, lights out. He was magnetic. Like when they first scored the 7 points, indicate the onside. I believe it was that second drive he got hurt on. I know a lot of people don't believe as much in Fran Brown as they did in 2024. I'm not one of those guys who believe in somebody and don't believe in somebody unless it's just like, hey, man, we at the end of the road here, brother. But I still believe in Fran Brown. I still believe in this program. I still believe in Steve Angeli. And I think they can absolutely light it up this season. So I love a lot of these ACC quarterbacks, man. Bo Prabula, I think is going to benefit immensely. He was at Missouri last year, liked a lot of what I seen before his injury a season ago. I think the love he'll get in Charlottesville, he'll like it. 67% completion percentage. Just shy under 2,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Remember, that he was in an offense that was heavily run dominant. I think with this UVA playbook, it'll be a lot more balanced. He will have an opportunity to throw the ball. I'm excited to see what happens with Bro this year. Of course, Eli Holstein is there. Bo Prabula should beat him up, but I'm not sure. Virginia Tech has Ethan Longmire. I'm excited for Virginia Tech. I'm excited for James Franklin. I'm excited that they was able to retain Brent Pry as a defensive coordinator. He was their former head coach who was fired. They retained him. That's important, and I think that's good for him because Brent Pry is a coach's coach, man. He's such a likable dude. His pops was a coach. I've always had exciting times talking to him at ACC Media Days. So what does that look like for Virginia Tech? Virginia Tech won a lot of ball games. I'm smacking an over on that 6.5. Wake Forest, Jake Dickert, man. I learned ACC Media Days. If there's a coach I learned the most about, Justin Wilcox, of course. Him and Jalen had one of my favorite interviews from last year's Media Day cycle. But I really like what I heard from the Wake Forest players about Jake Dickert and the type of individual he is. They say 6 o'clock in the morning, he's in the meeting room and he's screaming to the top of his lungs and screaming, if you're useless, you're useless. Like, bring the energy up. And I feel like it's one thing to say it and talk about it. It's another thing to walk in that, right? And I feel like he did that marvelously this past year. So shout out to Wake Forest. Shout out to what he was able to do this past year there. And their quarterback is Gio Lopez this year. Like I say, Wake Forest got a tough schedule, 5.5 wins, but I trust Jake Dickert. Can't wait to talk to him at ACC Media Days. So I think when you look at this list of quarterback, you got the Heisman candidates, right? You got Darian Mensah, and I'm going to add C.J. Bailey to that list. JKS would be on that list. I just don't know what to expect from Cal, but legitimate, guys that, sub top 15, Kevin Jennings will be there, and then you kind of got the rest of everybody. We want to see what you're going to do, like solid starters with like Lincoln Conholtz, Alberto Mendoza, Ethan Grunkmeyer, and Mason Heischel. So I ran along with that segment. I love talking quarterback. So we're going to kind of go quickly with this next segment. This next segment, we've been talking about the 24 college football playoff teams. Really. for a while now, and we're gonna finish it up this year. I got something interesting to show you. So shout out to the people. We don't know the 2014 college football playoff model. That's something that a lot of people saying online, like, yo, y'all already knocking it, but we don't even know the model. We have an idea what the model's going to be. It's not going to be too far-fetched from the current model. Like, we do know that, right? It's not going to be too far-fetched from the current model. It's just not going to be, right? It's just the way it is. So based on last year, right, this is what the playoff teams is going to look like. This is based on last year. This is what the playoff teams will look like. So we got 8 teams with first-round byes. Indiana, first-round bye. Ohio State, first-round bye. And I'm just going to go through the teams who deserved. Georgia, first-round bye. They deserve to be there. Texas Tech deserve to be there. Oregon deserve to be there. They get by Ole Miss 11-1. They deserve to be there. Could have been 12-0. Texas A&M deserve to be there at 11-1. Oklahoma deserve to be there. They were number 18. So those who get the byes, right? And these are the first round games, and these is where things get a little bit hectic, right? We will have JMU, the G6 bid, versus Alabama, right? All right, that would have been in Tuscaloosa. Our at Miami. And this is no disrespect to Iowa. We love Iowa on this platform. Iowa's my boy D Now team. So, of course, we always looking for them. We know what Kirk Ferentz do year in and year out. But did Iowa's 9-4 team last year deserve to be in the college football playoff? Well, 8-4 for the regular season, right? And then, of course, they had that bowl game. Did they deserve to be in the college football playoff? Yes, they were 6-3 in Big Ten play, but are they deserving of being in the college football playoff? This is my issue. Do we have 24 deserving teams? Do we even have? We probably do. No, I don't even think we got 20 deserving teams, right? And they played Miami. Miami was deserving of being in the playoff, right? Then you got number 22 Georgia Tech, who looked terrible down the stretch of the season. No, they're not deserving to be in the playoff. Notre Dame, yeah, I say they were deserving to be in the playoff. Had a tough front load of their schedule. I think won the average game about 29 points at the end of the season. So is Notre Dame deserving of being in the playoff? They weren't in the playoff, but were they deserving to be? Yes, we can leave that at that. Houston, I love Houston. I think Houston's going to be outstanding this season. Houston was not deserving to be in the college football playoff. BYU, a lot of people want to argue BYU was deserving to be in the college football playoff. You lost to the same team twice. You made no adjustments. You were not deserving to be in the college football playoff. In a conference that only got one team in 2024, only got one team in the field in 2025, you were not deserving to be in the college football playoff. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Number 20, Tulane versus number 13, Texas. And my mistake, the G6 bid was supposed to go to Tulane, so JMU is not deserving, right? But Tulane got the G6 bid. They are deserving. Is Texas deserving to be in the college football playoff? I think there's an argument. Are they absolutely 100% absolute deserving? No. There were some games that they lost. The Georgia game was a bad loss a season ago. The Ohio State, yeah, they lost to some really good teams. I'll give them that. But are they deserving to be in the college football playoff? We could say, okay, arguably, right? Number 19, Virginia, lost to Duke in an ACC championship a year ago. Were they deserving to be in the college football playoff? Absolutely not. And I love Charlottesville. I live an hour away from Charlottesville. Absolutely not were they deserving to be in the college football playoff. Vandy at 14. Love the story. Love Clark Lee. Love Diego Pavia. I love Barton Simmons and everything that they've done for that program to make that program respected. But was Vandy deserving of being in a college football playoff? If you want to argue yes, okay, we can argue yes. But we're just trying to find 20 teams here. Virginia not deserving. If you want to argue yes for Vandy, argue yes for Vandy. Was Michigan or Utah deserving of being in a college football playoff last year? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Neither one of those teams is deserving to be in a college football playoff last year. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Arizona would have been number 17 versus number 16, USC. If USC could have won the Notre Dame game, we could have had an argument. If they could have won the Notre Dame game, we possibly had an argument, right? I thought USC played outstanding football a season ago. You think about the comeback win versus Iowa, the domination, pure domination of Michigan. Yeah, okay. But Arizona, no, and I'm going to say USC, no, even though it hurts my soul. So when we just went down this list, and we're trying to find teams that are deserving to be in the college football playoff, how can we sit here and say that we have 24 deserving teams? How can we say we have 20 deserving teams? I don't even think we had 16 deserving teams to be in the college football playoff. Keep it at 12. That is my message with this. Keep it at 12. It is simple. 12 is good. You want to go to 14? We'll go to 14. I'm cool with 14. That have probably meant that BYU possibly would have got in if you say they're deserving. Texas or Vandy would have got in. All right, if you want to say they're deserving. That's cool. But 24 teams, we couldn't find 20. So we're trying to talk. Go through the years. Go through all of the years of the playoff era. You won't find 20 deserving teams to be in the college football playoff. You won't find 18. You might find 16 if you're lucky. If you're nice. I ain't nice. College football regular season matters. It will always matter. And that's the end of this segment. I ain't have a lot to say, but I'm going to talk about it all week, right? Really fun week of episodes. Next week, we're going to get back to our usual. We'll be getting the 3 live episodes. We are live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look for uploads on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Remember, Governor's Playbook, Governor's Film Room is coming up. That'll be released Tuesdays at 6 p.m. So that's another show for you guys to look out for. It'll be a different element, live element. We talk a lot about semantics, about the teams. This is pure schematics. And I love the film room. I love watching these players. I love schemes. I know a lot of schemes, believe it or not. So that's going to be fun. And so I always like to say there are no more victories in the sport that survive at advance. So while college football has the greatest regular season. Until next time, you all take care. We'll see you guys Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, one. Governor of college football. We're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
defensive minds. They have to be better on that side of the ball.